So let's just take a nice breath and turn within, closing those outer eyes to open wide those inner spiritual eyes. Infinite presence, here now. Infinite presence everywhere, because it is infinite. It is that light that shines within every cell of our being. It is the light that shines within the eyes of all of those we see. It is that light that brings forth all of the good that is within us, that is within all people. That presence, that source, is truly all there is throughout the universe, because we are one with it, and it is one with us. It is the very essence at the core of our being. And I know that as we are here today together, we are blessed by that divine light, that divine presence, that infinite source. And this expression of this source comes through each one of us in every interaction that we have here this morning and throughout the rest of our days. This expression is happening in the words that are spoken here this morning, in the music that lifts us up this morning. It is expressing through all of those who make sure that we are well fed physically. And so I bless each and every volunteer, each and every person, each new person, everyone who is online with us. I know that blessings abound. And in this knowing, I am so grateful to know that each one of us is that divine presence, expressing and loving and shining our light. I give thanks for all of this and for so much more. And I release my words now into that divine creative process. For it is always saying yes to us, yes, in every moment. I release, I let it be, and we can claim it together by saying, and so it is. We will be still for a couple of minutes in silence and be brought back together with beautiful music.
So I forgot to say Happy Mother's Day at the start. We did it on the video, but I just wanted to acknowledge that all the mothers in the room, if you're a mother, not if you've been called a mother, but if you are a mother, I invite you to stand and just be loved and recognized and respected. Thank you. Today's reading from Richard Rohr had a wonderful summary of Julian of Norwich, who was a female mystic in the 1300s, early 1400s, who equated God as the mother. God is the mothering principle of the universe. And so I love that perspective because, for traditional Christianity has always had God the Father, and that's good, yes, but it needs to be balanced, yes? Yeah, and so God is the father, mother of the universe, and so each of us contains that father and mother aspect within us, that divine masculine, that divine feminine. So nudge the person next to you and tell them, you are a mother. In the most loving way, by the way. Because we're all mothers, even if we don't have physical children, right? We've all created things. We've all created children in some way or another in our lives. That's part of our lives. So just wanted to honor that. So today, actually this whole year so far, we've been working on kind of a foundation of what we're about. So kind of to kind of create an understanding of that. The first 3 months we did 12 agreements. We call them the revolutionary agreements. If you want to catch up on those, there's a poster out on the wall next to the New Here table that has those, a summary, nice little poster of those that summarizes them. And then last month we did the first four chapters of The Science of Mind, written by Ernest Holmes, which is kind of our foundational teaching. And I explored those first four chapters. And this month we're exploring kind of 4 different core concepts, might be 5. I just found out the kids are not doing a takeover on the last Sunday of the month. So 4 or 5 core concepts out of this to look at. And I thought this month we would do them in the way of I'll talk for a little bit, and then I'll stop talking, and you guys talk for a little bit amongst yourselves. That's why the chairs are set up, so you can form circles pretty easily of groups of 6 or so. And you'll have a couple of questions. Last week I did 4 questions, and we decided that might be a little excessive, so I've narrowed it down to 2, which could actually be handled as 1, and we'll go with that. So today we're talking about the core. Last week we talked about the core concept of oneness. Everything is one. All there is this infinite oneness. By whatever name we give it, humans have given it names, all sorts of names throughout all sorts of history. But it's just this infinite oneness, and that infinite oneness is pure love. That is the nature of it. And that love works through what we're going to talk about today, which is what we call the law, the process of unfolding. Law is mind in action, the capital M, mind in action. And so this one mind, this oneness in action, and it's the universal law of mind is what Ernest Holmes calls it. And he says the laws of mind and spirit must be understood if they are to be consciously used for definite purposes. I'll say that again. The laws must be understood if they are to be consciously used for definite purposes. There is no limit to the law, but there seems to be a limit to man's understanding of it. So it's how much can we, accept is how much we're gonna have show up in our lives. So the law is simply, as I believe, it's done unto me. Most of us have heard that for a lot of our lives, yes? Okay, as I believe, it's done unto me, or as I believe, I receive. So the law is the divine pattern of the universe unfolding. And by divine, I don't mean there's, again, a big guy in the sky. It's just this is the process of the cosmic what is in this unfolding. I wanted to quote from Thomas Berry, who was a fabulous cosmologist, I believe he called himself. Humans may now be defined as the latest expression of the cosmic earth process, as that being in whom the cosmic earth human process becomes conscious of itself. So if you'll take that with me for a little bit. So the cosmos is the cosmos is the cosmos, yes? The big thing, right? As big as you can get it, and then bigger than that. It has at some point in time formed as this planet, yes? Through a process that took about 3 or 4 days. Okay, maybe about 8 billion or whatever it was years, right? And this planet has been around for, I believe is it 4 billion? I'm looking at Tim, who's a whole lot of years, 4 billion years, 13 billion years, whatever it is, 4 billion years. Evolving, showing up as something new. And we are the latest of its involvement, of its evolving, yes? And so we are the universe on this process becoming conscious of itself. We have the ability to be conscious. Unlike rocks, unlike plants, unlike even to some extent animals, we have more of that ability to be conscious. And by being conscious, we become conscious co-creators, co-evolutionaries on this planet with the infinite. Yes? Are you with me? Okay. Nudge your neighbor, say you're a co-evolutionary with me. And so the process that this law, if you will, this thing that says what I put into it, what I believe is what's going to show up, it's not my law or your law, it's the law. And if you read my write-up, in the e-news this week, how many of you read the write-up in the e-news this week? Come on. Okay, yeah, some of you. It's a standing joke among certain of us. I've had a couple of students in foundation studies over the many years that I've been involved in that say, well, why do you have to call it the law? It sounds like the cops, And it's like, it's the law like the law of gravity, the law of aerodynamics. Does that sound like cops to you? No, it's just this is the way it works. It works this way all the time for everywhere, for everybody, the same. Yes? Are we good? It's not Law and Order, the TV show. Okay? It's just the way that it works. And it's just a label that humans hang on that. Okay? So it's simply the law. It localizes through each of us, much as the law of gravity localizes through us. Yes? You're experiencing the law of gravity locally, yes? Like in your body on this, space right now. Whole bunch. If you're on the moon, you would experience the law of gravity in a little different way, but it would still be the same law of gravity because it works according to a certain process, yes? Okay, and if you don't understand that, go back to your basic high school physics and it'll explain it. So it localizes through us by our experience and use of it, which is my application of the one law, is how the law shows up as for me individually. Okay? So I'm localizing, I'm using individually this infinite law, this infinite process. It works the same for me as it does for you, for everybody here. Okay? But we create it. So Ernest reminds us that there is no your mind, my mind, and God's mind. Right? There's only mind, capital M, mind. We're each using part of it. We're each coloring it with our thoughts, if you will. Okay? But it's the same one mind. And it's acting upon the infinite law of cause and effect, and that law then takes on the color of our thoughts and our feelings. We say, this is how I want you to show up for me, law of cause and effect. Hopefully we're doing that consciously. That's what we're about. Most of the time we're doing it unconsciously, which we'll talk about in a minute. So the law then reacts to my thought as though it were a separate entity, but it's not a separate entity. It's the law acting. All this is a bit esoteric, but it's to help us to understand that we live, move, and have our being within a oneness, becoming conscious of itself through us. Yes? Which means it values us as itself. If you ever want to know, are you loved by the infinite? You are, because you are the infinite. It loves itself. And it's taking the time and the energy and the thought to be each of us. It was Emerson who said, the universe has need of an organ, a something here. That's why you exist. That's why I exist. Yes? Because the universe wants you to be. Yeah? Are we good? Are we good? Yes. Okay. So the law is a servant of the word. The word is what Ernest Holmes uses for the creative, putting something creatively into it. If I flip on a light switch, I could say I'm using the word of light. The law just follows where the switch goes, yes? The electricity just goes. Okay? I put something creative into that electricity. I can also plug in a toaster. I can also plug in, whatever I want to. Right? So the law is the servant of the Word, and the Word is the servant of the Spirit, the infinite presence. So everything we speak comes out of Spirit, originally. Now, we may color it in our own unique way. Spirit says, you are healthy. And we may color it and say, yeah, but I have these experiences that tell me I'm not healthy, so I'm going to believe that I'm not healthy. And the law will say, okay. And so it is. Yes. So the Word is the creative process which acts upon the law, and I can create health or sickness, love or apathy, prosperity or poverty. The law doesn't care, just like the electricity doesn't care what I plug into it, does it? It's just going to follow the law of electricity and do what it does. So the law doesn't care. It simply acts on the direction that we give to it. However, since this law exists within an infinite presence, the nature of which is love, infinite deep love, the law will always tend towards love. It will always be trying to seek and move towards love, even if we are confused about how to use it. It will always take us there. So we approach love through law. Love is the divine givingness, law is the way. So even when we use the law in such a way that seems to carry us towards non-love, greater separation from oneness, the underlying nature of infinite love that is pervasive throughout the universe, every spot, which is our own true nature. You're an expression of the infinite love of the universe, yes? Okay. Always seeks expression so that even the apparent misuse of the law, even when we screw up and take ourselves in some direction that really doesn't enhance the experience of love, oneness, or whatever, that this degree of separation, the experience of separation from that is such that it will eventually guide us back to the infinite love we want. Anybody who's gone through a 12-step recovery program knows this. You know, we get so far away from from feeling whole through our drinking or drugging or whatever, and eventually we stop and say, wait, I got to do something different. I got to learn about this law. I've got to apply it in a different way. And it will take me back to that wholeness. Yes? Okay. That's why most of us come into this teaching or something like it, is because at some point in time in our lives we say, you know what? My life, the way I've been doing it, isn't working, at least in some aspect of it. I want something better, and I hear about this thing that teaches how to use the law consciously, that even teaches us and reminds us there is a law that we can use consciously. Take a breath. You're all here because the infinite love within your soul wants to know itself, wants to unite with other souls that know it, and wants to express that love in ever more wonderful ways. That's why you're here. Thank you very much. I'm done. No. So most of the time when people come into this teaching, they come in oftentimes looking for what we call the 3 Ps, palaces, princesses, and parking spaces. How do I manifest stuff? Right? And it's good to learn how to manifest stuff, yes? Because if you need, we live in a physical universe, right? Notice we got a body, you know, and we got all this stuff. So we need some stuff in order to live. So it's good to know how to manifest that, but there's so much more available than just that. Yes? So the law is not a magic vending machine. Hey, I'd like more cars in my life. Okay? The law will say yes, by the way, if you can actually believe that. Okay? I'd like a more loving relationship. The law will say yes, if you actually can believe it. Did you get the catch in there? If we actually believe it. We'll talk about that in the next couple of weeks. But there's still so much more, because really the purpose of the law is to bring us back to an awareness and a remembering of our oneness with the infinite, our remembering and awareness that we are infinite love in form. That is what the law is really here to do. That is why Ernest Holmes says we approach love through law. It brings us there. And along the way we learn what's not love, so we can let that go and come back to love. That's the purpose of what we're doing. So the law is not a magic vending machine. And then the other thing that people get hung up on with the law is they say, well, I'm a good person, I do good things, but what about that person over there? They're misusing the law, yes? You haven't done this, but you've heard about that, right? Okay? And so we equate it with a balance sheet of good and bad. And who determines good and bad? We do. We do. Things that some people consider bad today were considered good in the past or in other cultures, and vice versa, yes? Okay? So we determine what's good or bad, and we expect the law to go along with our idea, but the law is bigger than that. Thank the Maker. And we get angry when good things happen to bad people, or at least some karmic lightning bolt doesn't come down and get them like we think it should, yes? But the law simply responds to our action. And the arc of the universe, the process of the universe, is very long. It's longer than our 70 or 100-year life cycles. Okay, we're here, we're eternal beings, yes? We're in this body for a while, however long we're in this body. But we, the consciousness, are eternal beings. Nudge your neighbor. Say, you're in it for the long haul. And so am I. So we have two questions to contemplate. I'm going to invite you to, you're kind of already set up in, if you'll just bring your chairs around into a circle. And the first question is, what is a time or experience where you've consciously used the law? Now, even before you ever got into religious science, you heard what you put out comes back to you, or do unto others as you would have it done unto you, etc. All that stuff. You've heard this, yes? Probably somewhere in your childhood. Okay? So, what is a time or experience where you've consciously used the law to create something wonderful in your life? And then the second question is, and where have you been unconscious and created something you didn't enjoy so much? And can you see that it's the same law used both ways? It's sort of three. The last one is, the second one is a two-part question that sort of wraps all of it. So thank you for the analyst. And then if have somebody that would kind of speak into the group, you know, your thoughts for that. So we'll take about 6 minutes for this whole thing. So that's about 1 minute per person to answer those questions. Break up, circle up, have some fun. Who's our spokesperson in this group?
Y'all are having way too much fun.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Our group, several people said we created the places that we live now, or the places where we landed when we first moved here, because we knew clearly how it was going to feel to have that nest, that landing place. And who knew it was going to look like that? We didn't know we were using the law back then. We just did it. I said over and over again, I leapt, and the net appeared over and over again in my life. I didn't know what the net was going to look like. I just knew I could leap and I'd be safe. And so the net appeared over and over again. Yeah, trust in something ineffable. Heard that somewhere.
Pass it back to them.
Okay. Am I on? Okay, so we have an interesting group with diverse manifestations and attractions. We have attracted wonderful antique cars, the ability to be visible and not invisible. We've attracted perfect health, and we've attracted a house. And so we have a variety of things that we've attracted. And in terms of being unconscious and creating something we didn't enjoy so much, we didn't elaborate on that because we don't really pay that much attention to the negative. So I think that's it.
Hello, everybody. Our group talked about some pretty practical ways that we're manifesting our realities, things like making a decision to move someplace and sticking with it. Also, in practical terms of being what you want to see in the world and how you want people to respond to you. So by consciously being a little bit more kind and compassionate, you might find that's what is reciprocated through the people that you run into, which is, you can kind of really tell when you ask people how their travels were. And they say, oh, those people. Anyways, we also, and sometimes it involved, hitting rock bottom to decide to actually open up to making a change. There were other things about letting go of expectations of ways that abundance might flow into our lives and seeing through the illusion of being stuck in our current circumstances.
I guess I'm the leader. So we had a discussion about going to college and that we knew we would want to go to college and how that manifested in our lives, as well as moving and changing our conditions to be living in a place where we were more happy and satisfied and, connected to our surroundings. So, and of course, our working life too, that you kind of figure out this isn't working, so you try other things and end up in a happier, healthier working place. So those were our themes a lot.
They're all pointing at each other, so it must be Susan.
That's funny. You created that. So we created or manifested pony, homes, different things like that, health, and then we had I think more health issues that were created that were not really cared for. And an interesting thing that came up in the group was the good and the not so good is a difference of allowing in timing. That there was when we allow and we just are focused and we have this clear desire or intention that we're wanting to create, there's more of this sense of just allowing it and trusting that it's going to happen. But in the things that we didn't like, it seemed like there was pushing. There was trying to do it ourselves and not waiting for that wave of demonstration and creativity that would just kind of pick us up and carry us to what it is that we desire. That was it.
Thank you. That's a perfect segue into next week's talk. Who's our spokesperson here? You are.
Our group had a variety of things that were manifested. One was healing and warming of hands that she thought sure were frozen and frostbite and so forth. And but she healed that with consciousness. And my experience was manifesting a microwave oven way back in the day when they first came out, and they were like 3 tons. But and then we had a very moving story about manifesting the approval of adopting a 14-week-old baby by buying a shoe to prepare for it. And we didn't get to the second question at all.
So you can see that there are multiple ways to use the law, but it's the same law, yes? So that leads us into our practice for this coming week, which is to become more conscious of when you're using the law, how you're using the law. More conscious of your thoughts, of your words, of what you're putting out into the universe because the infinite ear is always listening, yes? Okay, and it's always saying yes. So it's just becoming more conscious of our thinking, more conscious of our process. You know, right now I'm in a class where the mindfulness class, and our daily practice is to become more conscious of our body. We're walking through every single little, from our toes clear up to the top of our head with our body, just becoming more conscious of each little part of it. And so for us, it's becoming more conscious of our thinking along the ways. And it's not always easy because we're kind of used to just kind of, oh yeah, I'll go to sleep and not worry about this stuff. But it's saying, no, we got to wake up and we do actually have to pay attention. We don't have to force it, but we do have to pay attention to what we're thinking, what we're putting in. So that's your homework this week, is becoming more conscious of how you're using the law. Then we have an affirmation. Is everybody good with that, by the way? Okay, good. I hope so. Create some fun stuff this week. Say this with me. I work with the flow of the divine law for greater and greater good. One more time. I work with the flow of the divine law for greater and greater good. So it is.